Globalization, which means integration of the domestic economy with the international economy, presents opportunities as well as poses challenges to the developing countries. There is no doubt that the availability of large pools of international capital provides enough opportunities for developing countries as their access to foreign capital both in the public and private sectors increases. The inflow of foreign funds is the gap between net foreign financial assets and net foreign liabilities. An excess of net foreign liabilities over assets is a measure of net foreign borrowings. While a positive net borrowing has the advantage that it makes funds available for investment, which would supplement the domestic savings and thus increase the rate of capital formation, the foreign debt may not only interfere in our economic priorities and may try to influence our policies and international relations, but lead to an increase in the burden of external debt. Over a period of time, external borrowings may increase the burden of the payments of installments of the loans as well as the interest on these funds. Such borrowings may lead to international debt trap. One of the problems faced by developing economies is the burden of external debt, which comprises bilateral and multilateral foreign aid, external commercial borrowings and trade related credit. We limit ourselves to the burden of borrowings from IMF and World Bank by the developing economies. After studying this module, you shall be able to understand the problems faced by developing economies. You will be able to know about the sources of foreign currency loans. You will learn about the indicators of debt burden of developing countries. The World Bank and the International Monetary Fund are the two largest sources of foreign currency loans for the problem of poverty alleviation in the poor developing countries of the world. The poorest countries of the world owe more money to these two institutions than they do to any other private or government institutions. The major reason being that these loans were so poorly designed that the countries who received this money could not reap enough income from the projects funded by these loans and therefore were unable to repay them back. Besides, the corruption levels in these economies are so high that a major part of the funds have been siphoned off by the government officials and the private contractors into their own private bank accounts. This international debt problem reached to such a crisis situation that the repayment of these nations to World Bank and IMF each year had been much more than they receive in terms of loans. The World Bank has reported that IMF extracted a net US $1 billion from Africa in 1997 and 1998, more than they have given a loan to the African continent. The debt which the poor nations owe to World Bank and IMF globally has been the most difficult type of debt. Unlike private lenders and government aid agencies, the World Bank and IMF do not cancel debts, as the bylaws of both the agencies do not permit them to do so. Moreover, governments of these poor countries have to stay current with their multilateral debts because it is the IMF which determines the credit worthiness of different countries. This would mean that until IMF gives the approval, which requires the adherence of the economic policies it recommends for the poor nations, these nations are not able to get capital or credit from other sources. The problem of the burden of external debt is not of recent origin. The multilateral debt, which is money owed to international institutions like World Bank, International Monetary Fund, as well as their sister institutions like Asian Development Bank and African Development Bank, etc., has skyrocketed for the poorest nations. For low income countries defined by World Bank as those with per capita gross national product below $785, multilateral debt has increased by 544% between 1980 and 1997. The percentage increase in their long-term debt was about 22 to 30% for the most severely indebted countries. Of the 32 such low-income nations, 25 are in sub-Sahara Africa. It was only in 1996 that the World Bank and IMF agreed to help these countries who were under the heavy burden by creating the Heavily Indebted Poor Countries HIPC initiative. The condition to qualify for this relief was that a country must complete 3 years under an IMF Structural Adjustment Program SAP. The country was also bound by another 3 years SAP before getting relief. The paradox of this relief was that SAP required a cut in the spending on health, food subsidies and education. Since the relief started at a very late stage, only few countries could become eligible for any such relief, and the relief was not worth. For example, Uganda began to get debt relief worth $350 million in April 1998, but lost access to other debt relief due to this. The group of 77 also singled out in UN in 1997 that the rising debt burden is one of the most critical economic problems facing developing nations, which is having an adverse impact on their economies. It was clarified that there were 51 developing countries which were severely indebted. According to World Bank, borrowing has increased relatively more in Asia than in Africa and Latin America during this period. It is interesting to note that while lending by private creditors was increasing at a faster rate, in Asia and Latin America, the high share of debt of African countries was mostly given by multilateral creditors, mostly the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. The critical condition of the African countries as regards the unbearable burden of debt servicing led to the paradoxical situation where these African nations were in a way net exporter of capital to the developed countries and international financial institutions. Since debt overhang discourages investment, the development efforts of developing countries are severely hampered by the need to keep a substantial part of their national budget for servicing of external debt. It is in this background that the HIPC initiative of 1996 by IMF was a welcome step, although there were inherent limitations on getting these debt relief measures for many of the low income nations. The conditions and the time frame of 6 years put a limit to the relief measures. Thus, in the absence of effective debt strategy, it was required to have an equitable and development oriented external debt and debt servicing solutions for the developing nations. It was clarified by the World Bank that the debt crisis in the developing countries affects most of the poor people in these nations as they depend more on the government for health and education subsidies. The bank also admitted that they spend more on debt servicing than on education and health. World Bank has published data on external debt of developing countries for 2011 under International Debt Statistics in 2013. This series analyzes the information on the external debt which is based on actual flows and debt related transactions reported to the World Bank Debtor Reporting System DRS by 128 developing countries. The objective of international debt statistics, which has replaced global developmental finance, which has been discontinued, is to showcase the broader spectrum of debt data collected and compiled by the World Bank. The main information which emerges from this data is a net debt inflows to developing countries were 465 billion, which is 9% lower than the comparable figures for 2010. This fall in net inflows was due to a drop in inflows from official creditors. B. Aggregate net capital flows, that is both debt and equity, was again 9% lower in 2011 as compared to 2010. Measured in terms of developing country GNI, that is gross national income, the net capital flows was 4.9% in 2011 as compared to 6.2% of GNI in 2010. In both situations, it was much lower than the ratio in the crisis period of 2007. The portfolio investment declined sharply while direct foreign investment continues its upward trend. C. China is the largest recipient of net capital flows among developing countries, which accounts for 27% of the net debt and 35% of the net equity flows in 2011. Since China was dominating the direction of these flows to developing countries, if we exclude China, the decline in net debt and net capital flows 2011 changes to 13% for net debt and 3% for net capital flows respectively. D. The data also shows that the ratio of external debt to gross national income GNI in developing countries was 22% of GNI on average in 2011 as compared to 124% in G7 countries, showing that both in absolute terms and in terms of percentage of their gross national income, industrialized countries are more highly indebted than the developing countries. The statistics which shows that debt stock of the developing countries was a moderate average of 22% of GNI and 69% of the export earnings also shows that short-term debt, which was 26% of the debt stock at the end of 2011, was mitigated by international reserves. Although during global economic crisis 2008, some developing countries were forced to draw down international reserves, yet it is clear from the data that by the end of 2011, these countries recorded an accumulation of international reserves to 121% of the external debt. It also shows that there was a sharp fall in net inflows of debt. In contrast, net debt inflows from private creditors were almost the same between 2010 and 2011. The only change was in composition, that is, short-term inflows were dominant, net debt inflows fell less sharply due to 1. Recovery in the global economy, 2. Turmoil in the Eurozone. Moreover, China, the single largest borrower among the developing countries, determined the global trend. The World Bank data shows that the total external debt of all developing countries in 2011 had been $4,876 billion US. Out of this, long-term debt including IMF had been $3,469 billion US. The public debt multilateral was $505274 million US, and that of bilateral was $348,492 million US. It is clear from the data that short-term debt was the fastest growing component, which rose by 18% in 2001 as compared to 9% increase in the stock of long-term external debt, which shows a fall of 8.6% in 2011, which was entirely the result of a fall in net inflows from official creditors. The data about the external debt stock of developing countries and the net debt inflows to these countries between 2005 and 2011 and 2001 to 2011 respectively has been shown in the following tables. The tables show the external debt stock of the developing countries between 2005 and 11 and 2001 and 11. The source of all this data is World Bank Debtor Reporting System and IMF. Firstly, we take the World Bank Debt or Reporting System source. As the global economic and financial crisis was faced by the world in 2008, debt flows from private creditors to developing countries contracted while those from official sources increased sharply. The multilateral creditors, particularly World Bank and International Monetary Fund IMF, tried to provide emergency financing. Thus, in 2009, net debt inflows from official creditors exceeded those from private creditors for the first time since 2002. But this financing pattern was short-lived, and since 2010 there is a strong resumption of inflows from the private creditors. The concessional and non-concessional loans fell by 60% in 2011 from official creditors. This was the result of stoppage of net inflow of IMF financing to developing countries and the collapse in net inflows from IBRF to 2.1 billion US dollars from 17.1 billion dollars in 2010. Even net inflows from bilateral creditors were less than the half of their 2010 level, as is clear in the following table. The table shows the net official loan financing to developing countries between 2005 and 2011. This is also taken from the World Bank Debtor Reporting System. Now, moving on to discuss the indicators of debt burden of developing countries, we take selected indicators. There is no doubt that the burden of external debt, particularly to the globally poor countries, given by the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, had remained the most critical issue during 1990s. Since mid-1980s, a series of international debt strategies and initiatives had been launched, which includes Paris Club, rescheduling agreements, Toronto terms of 1988, London terms of 1991, Naples terms of 1994, and highly indebted poor countries HIPC initiative of 1996. All the initiatives before HIPC 1996 have not gone far enough in alleviating the serious debt burden and debt servicing problems of developing countries. But the initiatives taken by IMF after 1996 in terms of HIPC and Multilateral Debt Relief Initiative MDRI have shown some results. Since 2000 to 2008, developing countries' external debt burden indicators measured in terms of its ratio to GNI and export earnings have improved over this period. The combined stock of external debt of developing countries measured in relation to export earnings fell to 63.9% in 2008 as compared to 129% in 2000. Correspondingly, the ratio of external debt stocks to GNI in developing countries was also reduced to 22.1% from 37.9% in the same time period. The factors which were responsible included strong growth performances, a sharp increase in export earnings as export volumes increased, high international prices of primary products, and a shift in external financing from debt to equity in many developing countries. In the case of very poor low income countries, large scale forgiveness of external debt obligation under HIPC and MDRI also contributed to the reduction in these ratios. The global economic and financial crisis in 2009 have sharply reduced the export earnings of the developing nations. Along with it, the need to finance current account deficit and to exports have gone up to 85%, which is the highest level since 2005. The ratio of external debt stimulations have increased the external borrowings. Thus, the ratio of external debt to GNI has also increased to 24.2%. However, despite continued global economic fiscal uncertainties, the economies of developing countries showed improvement in the year 2010 and 11, and the ratio of external debt to GNI and to export earnings for all developing countries has improved to 21.5% and 69.3% respectively. This trend was widespread in all regions as regards the ratio of external debt to export earnings and was broadly true for the ratio of external debt to GNI. East Asia and the Pacific region has the lowest debt burden both in terms of GNI and export earnings, despite the fact that their debt outstanding has increased since 2009. Countries in Europe and Central Asia are the most heavily indebted amongst developing nations. It is only in Latin America, Caribbean and countries of South Asia where the ratio of debt to GNI has increased in 2011, but only marginally. The top 10 borrowing countries have a ratio of debt to exports broadly comparable to other developing countries, while their debt burden is lower if we take the ratio to GNI, as is clear from the following table. Now, this table will show the outstanding debt and its ratio to GNI. Another indicator of debt burden is the debt service ratio. It is the ratio of foreign exchange funds which are required to meet the payment of installment and the interest on external debt as a ratio of total annual earning of foreign exchange through exports of goods and services. This is also a significant indicator, as a higher debt service ratio would mean that the country uses major part of its current foreign exchange earnings for just meeting its debt obligations and not much is left for developmental imports. Although there is no precise way of determining this ratio, but the general view is that it should not exceed 30%. As the exports level grow, then the burden of debt automatically comes down. While the debt national income ratio is a useful indicator of the magnitude of the debt burden of a country, it is the debt servicing capacity of an economy which is more critical. It determines not only the ability of an economy to meet its debt obligations, but also its chance of default. The liquidity and insolvency, which is a country's ability to discharge its external obligations on a continuing basis, problems are the two main difficulties of debt servicing. Therefore, the sustainable level of external debt of a country should be determined in terms of these two indicators of liquidity and insolvency. For these, the country must be able to save and spare that amount of income equal to the payment in debt servicing, as well as the country should be able to earn enough foreign exchange through exports and make it available for meeting debt service obligations. The key debt indicators trend between 2000 and 2011 for the developing countries, which shows their debt burden. Thus, World Bank since its inception has played a leading role in compilation and dissemination of data on the external debt of developing countries. The World Bank Data Reporting System DRS, on which our data is based, has been in existence for 60 years. It provides information to both policymakers and analysts with a long-term series of information on external debt stocks and flows of developing countries. Recently, it has added a few additional debt data series due to changing global situations. These are QEDS, which is Quarterly External Data Statistics, and the PSD, Public Sector Debt Database. The former, which is QEDS, was developed jointly by World Bank and IMF during 1997 Asian crisis. The difference between DRS and QEDS database is based on the country's coverage. Those who report to DRS are the borrowers from World Bank, IBRD and IDA, while QEDS is open to both developing and high income countries. The PSD is also open to all, and the database is designed to meet the widespread consensus among academics, policymakers and market participants. The World Bank, which contributes IBRD and IDA, not only provide loans but also provide financial support to public sector borrowers in the form of grants, that is IDA, and guarantees, while the other parts of the World Bank, IFC and Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency MIGA provide loans and guarantees to private sector borrowers in the developing countries. The commitments signed by IBRD as regard new loans are down as compared to 2010 levels. Countries in Latin America and the Caribbean received a larger share, but they also had to bear the brunt of overall decline. South Asia received an increase in 2011 due to a jump in new commitments to India. The steepest decline was recorded in sub-Saharan share. On the whole, the concentration of IBRD moderated from 85% in 2010 to 10 borrowers to 77% in 2011. Since the concentration continued to the top 10 borrowers, these countries had outstanding obligations to IBRD of $126 billion at the end of 2011, of which 55% was owed by the 6 borrowers like Mexico, China, Turkey, India, Indonesia and Brazil in order of importance. IDA resources are reserved for the world's poorest countries and are concentrated basically in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. Thus, in 2011, countries in Sub-Saharan Africa were the principal beneficiaries and received 48% of IDA disbursement, which is loans and grants both. South Asia had been the second most important destination of IDA disbursement, which increased in 2011 due to rapid increase in disbursement to India and Pakistan. The share of IDA resources to other regions remained moderate. The resources of IDA are given to individual countries on the basis of performance-based allocation system, which takes into account the population and GNI per capita. The IDA's loans are concentrated with 5 countries of East and South Asia like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam and China in order of importance. The African countries with the largest share outstanding are Nigeria, Tanzania and Kenya. Thus, World Bank Group has been an important source of external debt to the developing nations. Although the burden of external debt is one of the important challenges faced by the developing nations, but the satisfying part is that the burden is reducing in the 21st century. Now we will summarize what we have learned in this module. This module gives us information about the debt burden of the developing nations, particularly the debt taken from World Bank and International Monetary Fund. Through various tables, data and the graphs, we have shown the real situation of debt burden in these developing economies. The module also gives us some information about the important indicators which can give us a true picture of the debt burden of these countries.